The UFC middleweight division is one of the most exciting divisions in the company right now, and we're going to go through the entire roster, giving you guys the matchups that need to be made next, all throughout the rankings, all throughout the unranked fighters as well. These are the fights you need to see, and these are the best fights I can think of. I've sat here and contemplated some of these matchups for a very long time. There are some obvious ones. Obviously, we had some fights that were already booked. We had some fights that were also postponed as well. Let's go through the entire division. The first one is the most obvious in the entire division. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa, but hear me out. You knew that answer was coming because everyone knows that Adesanya versus Costa is the fight to make next. I want to see Adesanya fight Paulo Costa in Brazil. I want to see that happen. I want to see Adesanya sort of owe us something after that last performance. I'll be honest with you guys. Go to Brazil, put the pressure all on Paulo Costa, because right now we have these Brazil events, and as you saw with them making Jose Aldo versus Henry Cejudo, we don't have a lot of Brazilian champions or title contenders right now since USADA, but they're not intertwined at all, but it just so happened that when USADA came along, we lost all of our Brazilian champions and title contenders in the men's divisions. However, other than Divas and Figueiredo, however, we've got Paulo Costa. Let's make the most out of him. He's the only one that would make sense in a main event over at Brazil right now. I can't think of any other name other than Amanda Nunes that could headline a Brazil card right now. Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Adesanya needs to do the company a favor, make that fight happen. It's the only one that makes sense. Adesanya versus Costa is a fight I want to see next, but let's move on to the more interesting fights, and the ones where I might be able to surprise you here and there. But Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till, it's been made, and I was at first thinking I don't mind if this one gets cancelled. I like both guys. They're both my favourite fighters in the UFC's middleweight division. I wouldn't mind if it got completely cancelled and they remade Whittaker versus Cannonier, because I thought Cannonier was a bit more of a deserving contender to fight the former champion in Robert Whittaker. And I thought they would go with maybe Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. But you know what? Since they have signed the Whittaker versus Darren Till fight, the back and forth that they have had on Instagram, the fight needs to happen now. You know, at first I was a little bit skeptical, but the fight just needs to happen. There's been too much back and forth. It's the perfect recipe for an organic, non-trash talking fight that people are going to be entertained by at UFC Dublin. I'm okay with Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. Let's move on. These are the ones you're going to actually be interested by. Yoel Romero versus Jared Cannonier needs to happen next. Yoel Romero, he's always in the title picture. I thought he actually could have won against Israel Adesanya. I don't mind what way you see that fight, to be honest with you. In my opinion, it's determined on round 2. And that was a close round. I don't think anyone clearly won that fight. And I think Yoel Romero is going to stay in the title picture. And as much as Dana White says that Yoel Romero will not earn another title shot in his career, that means literally nothing. Because if Yoel Romero goes out there and beats Jared Cannonier and Paulo Costa beats Adesanya, they might just make Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa 2 for the world title. Dana's words in this situation mean completely nothing. They don't mean anything for Yoel Romero, and Yoel Romero still has a great chance of getting back in the title picture. He's not going to move up to light heavyweight because he would be too small, and by the way, his only KO in his entire career has been at light heavyweight, so I think that staying at middleweight is a good move for him. He's not even that huge. I know it sounds crazy to say, but he's slimmed down quite a bit recently than what he used to be. I like him at middleweight. I think Yoel Romero versus Jared Cannonier is the fight to make next, and I also feel like it gives Jared Cannonier a reward here, because it's not his fault, I mean, he did pull out with a pectoral injury at UFC 248. However, it's not his fault. You know? It isn't really his fault that now Whittaker's getting the Till fight and it's not going to be Whittaker versus Cannonier anymore. He didn't even have to take the Darren Till fight in the first place, and there were complications with that as well. I feel like the only sensible thing right now to make sure that everyone's happy is to give Jared Cannonier a fight against Yoel Romero, because listen here, if Darren Till beats Robert Whittaker, but does it in a very, very boring fashion, which can happen when you've got 2 elite level strikers, as we have seen time and time again in the UFC, what if Jared Cannonier just so happens to KO Yoel Romero? This is Jared Cannonier's chance to make a performance big enough to maybe steal a title shot away from Darren Till, if Darren Till does get past Whittaker. And also, this is a chance for Jared Cannonier to earn his title shot in the case that Whittaker beats Darren Till, and they don't want to give Whittaker an immediate title shot again. Everyone's happy in the top 5 of the division. Yoel Romero versus Jared Cannonier is the fight I want to see made next. Next up, now we get to the little bit of the shit pile of the division, but we'll get through them. Kelvin Gastelum versus Anderson Silva. I know it sounds mad, but Anderson Silva's never going to fight an unranked opponent in his entire career. He still feels as though he can hang with the top of the division, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't mind his chances against Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum's a small guy with a small reach. Anderson's a long-rangey striker, and you saw his performance against Adesanya. Anderson Silva's very hit and miss with his performances. I think on any given day, he can maybe do something in the division. Let's give him Kelvin Gastelum, because you know why? Kelvin Gastelum can win over the Brazilian fans by speaking Portuguese afterwards. He's very good at that. And if I was to have anyone beat Anderson Silva and take the torch from him, it would be Kelvin Gastelum. We need Anderson Silva in main event fights. We need him in high profile fights, period. Kelvin Gastelum versus Anderson Silva, it was supposed to happen twice before. Remember, Anderson Silva got pulled off the Singapore card for drugs. Another time it was supposed to happen and it got cancelled then. I believe that was Kelvin Gastelum's fault. Michael Bisping ended up jumping in on short notice. There's a storyline there. Kelvin Gastelum, Anderson Silva, both guys coming off losses. Anderson's not going to face an unranked opponent like he should probably right now. So, Gastelum versus Anderson Silva. If Gastelum wins, he gets all of the hype back under him. You know, he beat Anderson Silva. He's back on track. He's got a win under his belt. And if Anderson Silva wins, we've got a top 10 ranked Anderson Silva, who, by the way, has a win over Derek Brunson. So he may be even higher ranked than that. And we've got Anderson Silva back in the mix. Gastelum versus Silva is the fight I want to see made next. However, we move on because this leaves us some names. We have some fights that have been booked already. Jack Hermansson versus Chris Weidman makes every level of sense to me. Jack Hermansson, the younger guy that you arguably would want to beat Chris Weidman, but also Chris Weidman gets his chance to come back into the middleweight division against a ranked opponent. And by the way, both of them are coming off losses. Great stuff. Jack Hermansson versus Chris Weidman. I'm down for that fight. Derek Brunson versus Edmund Shabazz is another amazing fight. I mean, you're basically giving Edmund Shabazz the championship treatment here. You gave it to Robert Whittaker. You gave it to Israel Adesanya. Every time you've got a guy who looks like he could be the new world champion, you say, hey, Derek Brunson, come get head kicked. You know, that's just how it works. And Edmund Shabazz has shown in his last fight with Brad Tavares, he can do some head kicking, you know? So Brunson, come get head kicked like you did against Jacare, like you did against Whittaker, and like you did against Israel Adesanya. And we'll say no more about it. Thank you for your services, Derek Brunson. Shabazz versus Brunson needs to happen next. And if Brunson wins, listen. The winner of Shabazz versus Brunson could maybe take on the winner of Gastelum versus Anderson Silva. And I would be very happy with that. Thank you very much. That's a great thing right there. Jack Hermansson, Chris Weidman, Brunson versus Shabazz. You knew those fights were going to happen. Another fight you know that's going to happen, I'm going to quickly get off the list. Uriah Hall versus Jacare Souza. We don't even have to talk about it. I've already talked about that fight enough. Good fight. Jacare needs a fight to get back in the division. Uriah Hall's a big name with 2 wins in a row. Cool. If Jacare wins, reignites his career, he can have another fight against a ranked opponent. And if Uriah Hall wins, I would like to see the winner of these 2 fights. I would like to see Hermansson versus Weidman take on the winner of Uriah Hall versus Jacare Souza, and Derek Brunson versus Shabazz winner take on the winner of Gastelum versus Anderson Silva. I think that ties up the division outside of the top 5 for long enough for us to sort out the title picture, because we've got a lot of new contenders here. We've got Costa, we've got Till, we've got Cannonier. That's going to hold up the title for some time, and especially if Adesanya wants to move up to light heavyweight as he planned in 2021. We need to sort some stuff out in the top of the division, and I think these 4 fights and semi-finalists and finals of just outside the top 5 are going to keep the rest of the division occupied, so we have a great new contender waiting for us when the champion is done with light heavyweight. Or if someone completely dethrones Adesanya and the rest of them have to figure stuff out. We've got time. Let's make these big fights. Moving on. And here's where we can get a little bit creative. Omari Akhmedov is ranked. He has got no hype whatsoever because he beat Ian Heinisch, who was coming off a loss. That's not how you get hype when you enter the rankings of a new division. However, Omari Akhmedov versus Mahmoud Muradov sounds good to me. Their names sound very similar. They're from similar parts of the world if you're counting the East as similar. They're on the same half of the world, I guess you could say. The right-hand side of... There's no really right-hand side of the world, but they're on the east of the world if you look at it on a map. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but I thought a great card that these two could go on, UFC Kazakhstan. UFC Kazakhstan, you've got an Uzbeki in Mahmoud Muradov, and you've got an A person from around the area as well in Omari Akhmedov. I don't know whereabouts he's from exactly, but I think Kazakhstan would be a great place to put some of these guys on, to bring, hopefully the lockdown's over by then, but to bring some of their fans from their little countries to mix in at Kazakhstan and sell us some tickets, because that card is going to be very hard to sell, and we need to stack it with as much local talent as we can. Omari Akhmedov versus Makhmudmuradov at UFC Kazakhstan on the main card. Thank you very much. Ian Heinisch versus Brad Tavares. Both coming off losses. 2 losses in a row, actually. I'm looking forward to it. Good stuff. Heinisch and Tavares. Let's make it happen. The winner's back in the division and can maybe take on the winner of Akhmedov versus Makhmudmuradov, unless it's Heinisch and Akhmedov who win. We'll see what happens. So let's say Tavares beats Heinisch, Muradov beats Akhmedov. Let's square the pair of them off together. Moving on. Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Andrew Sanchez. Amazing fight. Amazing fight, Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Andrew Sanchez. They're both coming off losses. They're both reasonably... Well, Antonio Carlos Jr. ain't young anymore, but Andrew Sanchez is still young, still in his prime, coming off a loss. The highest ranked guy outside of the rankings to be coming off a loss. Let's pair them up together. I don't really know what to say about that one, but here's where things get very, very interesting. These are the contenders. I know Muradov is a great contender, but this is the real cesspit. These next 6 names I read you are going to be some of the best contenders in the division. Marvin Vettori versus Carl Roberson. It was somewhat signed for April the 25th. Not April, I think it was April the 25th, yeah. No, May the 25th. This was signed for May the 25th. I hope that card is still going to be going on somehow. Marvin Vettori versus Carl Roberson. 2 guys on 2 fight win streaks. 2 top contenders. Marvin Vettori 26. I also gave Makhmudmuradov the jump up to fight Omari Akhmedov over some names like Marvin Vettori and Carl Roberson. Mainly because I like those 2 guys fighting each other. Vettori and Roberson is one of the most even fights I've seen in a while. And I can't wait to see that one. But Muradov's 30 years of age. And he's going to be 31 soon. Let's maybe accelerate his rise towards the title, because at the end of the day, Robeson's just turned 29 and Vettori's 26. They got time. But Muradov's coming up on 31. That's when you're starting to leave your prime. So let's fast forward Muradov to fight Akhmedov and do Vettori versus Roberson in the meantime to find ourselves, in my opinion, someone who should definitely be ranked if they win. At least at number 15, because it's a joke otherwise. And also, I want to see Krzysztof Jotko versus Eric Anders. I want to see Brendan Allen versus Trevin Giles. These are the contenders I'm talking about. Middleweight's great right now, but we're going to have to half our contenders. Okay? And only half of them can move forwards. Krzysztof Jotko, Eric Anders. Great fight to make. Both of them on win streaks. 2 fight win streaks as well. Both of them older guys, so we're not cancelling off. 2 veterans against each other. I know it's hard to call Eric Anders a veteran, but he's been in the sport for a very long time now compared to guys like Brendan Allen, who should take on Trevin Giles, who are 2 newcomers to the UFC. Both of them should square off against each other. I think Trevin Giles didn't win against James Krause. However, he's coming off a win. Brendan Allen's also coming off a win. They're both young. There's no rush to chuck them to a veteran yet. Let's see the pair of them square off against each other. Brendan Allen versus Trevin Giles. Good stuff. Gerald Meerschaert versus Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira has been completely demolishing every single person with his superior grappling. Gerald Meerschaert knows how to grapple. He's a veteran. He knows some tricks. He's coming off a big submission win over Deron Winn, who was the next contender, even though he was coming off a loss. I don't know how they painted that image, but that's the image the UFC was painting because, you know, he looks a bit like DC, so I guess that makes him a superstar or something. Gerald Meerschaert versus Rodolfo Vieira is the fight I want to see made next. I need Rodolfo Vieira to take on someone who knows what they're doing in the grappling department. And Gerald Meerschaert is a big guy for the division, and he knows exactly what he's doing in the grappling department. Gerald Meerschaert versus Rodolfo Vieira is what I want to see next. I want to see someone take Rodolfo Vieira into different parts of the game. You know, I don't want to see Rodolfo Vieira just get someone's back and choke him out. It's very good to see, don't get me wrong. But I want to see if he can stand for a little bit. I want to see how it looks when someone else takes him down. And now he's on bottom with strikes involved. And I think Meerschaert can show him a few tricks being the veteran that he is. Meerschaert versus Vieira. Darren Stewart versus Tom Breeze. 2 Englishmen in the middleweight division that I was rooting for. Both coming off losses. Not looking good. Not doing the country proud. So one of you must suffer. So Darren Stewart versus Tom Breeze it is. We'll do it at UFC London or maybe at UFC Dublin. That would make a lot more sense, seeing as it is in August and it is coming up suited in March next year. Darren Stewart versus Tom Breeze. Loser goes home. Darren Stewart lost on the Cage Warriors main event against Bartosz Verbinski. I think his name was Bartosz Verbinski. Darren Stewart lost to him, got completely destroyed. Somehow it was a split decision, but don't let that fool you. Every Darren Stewart fight's a split decision. That was a clear whooping from Bartosz Verbinski, 2-1. You could argue a 10-8. I wasn't arguing who the fight went to. I was arguing 10-8s to Bartosz Verbinski. However, Darren Stewart versus Tom Breeze is the one I want to see next. Tom Breeze, of course, coming off a pretty humiliating comeback to the UFC where he lost by first round TKO by Brendan Allen, which I predicted, by the way. Brendan Allen by first round TKO, but, you know, we don't have to mention it. Darren Stewart versus Tom Breeze. Moving on. Puna for short. Puna Soriano versus Andre Muniz. Brazilian Andre Muniz, newcomer to the UFC, undefeated, I believe, or he has one loss on his career record. 1-0 in the UFC. Puna Soriano, 1-0 in the UFC. Let's square them off against each other. Kevin Holland versus Jack Marshman. Two guys with wins, but coming off losses right now. Let's do that one. It was already booked for UFC London. Somehow was the co-main event for a very long time. I don't understand that, but that's a cool fight to make. Wellington Turman versus Anthony Hernandez, and I am done. Those are some good fights. I think those are some really good fights. We could do the winner of Brendan Allen versus Trevin Giles versus the winner of Christoph Jotko versus Eric Anders. We could do the winner of Gerald Meerschaert versus Rodolfo Vieira versus the winner of Ian Heinisch versus Brad Tavares. No. Everyone shut up for a second. Everyone shut the fuck up. We do the winner of Jotko versus Anders versus the winner of Allen versus Giles. Shh. We do the winner of Meerschaert versus Vieira versus the winner of Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Andrew Sanchez. Shh. We do the winner of Marvin Vettori versus Carl Roberson versus the winner of Ian Heinisch versus Brad Tavares. Oh my god, this is working out perfectly for me. The winner of Darren Stewart versus Don Breeze versus the winner of Kevin Holland versus Jack Marshman. Amazing, because you could get Jack Marshman versus Darren Stewart. UK, England versus Wales. That would be an interesting one. Same with Tom Breeze. He's also from England. That would be a good one. Puna Soriano versus Andre Muniz winner versus the Wellington Turman versus Anthony Hernandez winner. And I am done. That division is solved. You're welcome. Sean Shelby, I know you watch these videos because a lot of fights have been signed recently based around what I've been saying. So you're welcome, Sean Shelby. That's who is next. Like and subscribe. All those fights need to be made. That's the entire division cleared other than John Phillips because I refuse to put him in the list. John Phillips can fight Dusko Chodrovic. It was signed for UFC London. Let's make that fight happen. Just Dusko Chodrovic needs a way into the UFC. Streaking up and comer. John Phillips can be fed to him. I didn't leave out John Phillips. There you go. Fucking hell. I knew the millions of John Phillips fans were just going to just pile onto me there. So I'm glad I mentioned his name at the very end because I know that John Phillips' fan base, whew, they're the biggest in MMA. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye. See you later. Didn't click stop recording. That could have been very wrong if I did not notice. Goodbye.